At the Port Authority bus terminal, my husband bought me a coffee. "Drink up, honey." "It's a long ride," he said, his voice dripping with affection. I drank, and the world began to blur. As he helped me onto the bus, he whispered, "In an hour, you won't even remember your own name." I realized this was the end. But suddenly, a man appeared, stared at me intently and said, "It can't be. Is that you after all these years? My God, you're trembling. What have they done to you?" But before I go on, tell me in the comments where you're listening to my story from. I'm dying to know how far it's traveling. I woke up that Saturday morning to find Richard already out of bed. A rare occurrence. My husband, 33 years of marriage, 33 years of waking up next to the same man. And it still surprised me when he got up before I did. "Morning, my love. Ready for your trip?" My mother had just been discharged from the hospital in Montauk after a bout of pneumonia that nearly took her. Richard had suggested I go visit, spend a few days with her. "Carmen, you deserve a break." I really did. 3 boutiques to manage, 20 employees to coordinate, suppliers, clients, accounts. Sometimes I forgot how I'd gotten there. From a small stall at a flea market in Queens to the small fashion empire I'd built. Everything in my name, the stores, the apartment on the Upper West Side, the car. Richard had his wine import business, which in 33 years had never turned a profit. But marriage is like that, isn't it? You carry the weight together, or so I thought. "Are you sure you don't want to fly?" he asked while I packed. "You'd be there in an hour." My stomach lurched at the thought. "You know I can't get on those things, Richard." "I'm terrified. The bus is fine. It's only a couple of hours." He didn't insist. He never insisted. I packed a small bag. I was only staying for 3 days, and put in some comfortable clothes. Richard paced around the apartment, checking his watch every 5 minutes. The bus leaves at 10. "Carmen, we should probably get going. Calm down. I still have time." Traffic, my love. A Saturday morning can be tricky. He was acting strange, anxious, but I chalked it up to him being worried about my mother. While I was doing my makeup in the bathroom, my cell phone rang. It was Amanda, my daughter. If I did one thing right in this life, it was raising that girl. 30 years old, a family law attorney, my best friend. We spoke every day, had lunch together every week. She was the only person who truly knew me. "Hey, Mom, everything okay?" "Everything's fine, honey. I'm just getting ready to head to Montauk." "Oh, that's right. You're going to see Grandma. Give her a kiss for me." "I will." Amanda paused. I knew that pause. "Mom, are you really okay?" "I am, sweetie." "Why?" "I don't know. I have a weird feeling." Amanda always had that. Ever since she was little, she could sense things before they happened, and she had never liked her father. When she was 16, she came home crying, said she'd seen her father at the mall holding hands with some woman. I refused to believe it. I fought with her, told her she was making it up. Amanda never brought it up again, but her gaze changed. Every time she looked at Richard, there was something different in her eyes. Suspicion contained anger. I noticed, but I pretended I didn't. It's easier to ignore the signs than to face the truth. "I'm fine, honey, don't worry." "Okay, Mom, call me when you get there." "Okay, I will. Love you too, Mom, so much." I hung up with a tightness in my chest. I finished getting ready and found Richard in the living room, my suitcase in his hand. "Ready?" "Ready?" He smiled, a strange smile. A smile I had never seen before. If I had known what was waiting for me at that bus station, I would have hugged my daughter one last time. I would have told her she was right about her father all along, but I didn't know. And so I went to the Port Authority terminal on that Saturday morning. "Richard, the Montauk bus leaves from the lower level." "They changed companies, my love. This one is better, newer buses." I didn't question it. Richard always handled these things. Families going on trips, kids with backpacks, seniors with shopping bags, the roar of engines, announcements over the PA system, people running not to miss their bus. I've always found bus stations to be sad places. Goodbyes, longing, distances. Richard was carrying my suitcase. That was strange. He never carried anything for me. In 33 years, I couldn't remember a single time he'd offered to carry my things, but I was too tired to question, too tired to be suspicious. He was sweating, looking from side to side every 2 seconds, as if he were looking for someone, or as if he were afraid of being seen. "Are you okay, Richard?" "I'm fine, my love. It's just hot in here." It wasn't hot. The terminal was air-conditioned, but I let it go. "I'll go get you a coffee," he said. "Wait here." He rushed off before I could answer. He came back 2 minutes later with a paper cup in his hand. "Here, so you don't fall asleep on the trip." I took the coffee. It was hot with that nice aroma. I took a sip. It had a slightly bitter taste, different than usual, but I attributed it to bus station coffee. Bus station coffee is never good. I took another sip and another. Richard watched me with a strange intensity, as if he were waiting for something. "Come on, my love, your bus is about to leave." He led me to the platform. My head started to feel strange, light, as if I were floating. "Richard, I'm feeling dizzy." "It's the heat, my love. It'll get better once the bus hits the road." My legs started to give out. I tried to lean on him, and he held me tight. Too tight. "Come on, Carmen. I'll help you up." He practically carried me onto the bus. My vision was so blurry, I couldn't read anything, not the bus number, not the destination on the electronic sign. The driver looked at us strangely, but said nothing. Richard showed him my ticket. When had he bought that? I couldn't remember. He led me to a seat in the back. I could barely keep my eyes open. The world was spinning. Voices sounded like they were coming from far away. Richard leaned over me. His face was close to mine, so close I could feel his breath in my ear. And then he whispered, "In an hour, you won't even remember your own name." I tried to scream, to stand up, to do something, but my body wouldn't obey. It was like I was trapped inside myself, watching everything happen without being able to react. Richard pulled away, looked at me one last time with a smile I'll never forget. A smile of victory, of relief, of cruelty. "Goodbye, Carmen." He got off the bus without looking back. With great effort, I managed to turn my head to the side. I saw him through the window, walking calmly through the terminal, as if nothing had happened. As if he hadn't just destroyed the life of the woman he'd been married to for 33 years. The bus started to move. My consciousness was slipping away. The images became blurrier, the sounds more distant. I knew I was dying, not in a physical sense, but in a worse way. I was being erased. The last thing I thought of before almost losing consciousness was Amanda. She was right. She was always right, and I never apologized. The bus stopped. I don't know how much time had passed, minutes, hours. Time had lost its meaning. I was in a state between consciousness and sleep, between life and death. Rest. Stop. I think that's what the driver had announced. Mandatory break for the driver. Passengers started to get up. I tried to do the same, but my body wouldn't obey. My legs were shaking. My head was spinning. Sweat poured down my face. A woman sitting in front of me looked back and screamed, "This woman is sick! Somebody help!" Voices, so many voices, people running. Someone tried to lift me. I couldn't speak. I couldn't explain what was happening. They carried me off the bus. The fresh air hit my face. They sat me on a bench outside the rest stop building. People gathered around looking with curiosity, concern, fear. The driver was yelling, "Someone call 911. I was going to die there. That's what I thought. I was going to die at a rest stop on I-95, without knowing why my husband had done this to me, without being able to say goodbye to my daughter. And then I heard a voice. I'm a doctor. What happened? A man's voice, firm, authoritative, the voice of someone who knew what they were doing. I felt hands on my face, firm but gentle. Someone lifted my eyelids, looked into my eyes. I heard him rummaging through my purse, looking for my ID, and then the voice changed from professional to shocked. Carmen Prow. I tried to focus to see who was speaking, a blurry face in front of me, a man, graying hair, brown eyes, familiar, so familiar. Paul. My voice came out as a whisper, but he heard it. My God, after all these years, what happened to you? Paul Roberts, the shy kid from our high school in White Plains 40 years ago. He was skinny, wore glasses, and was always being picked on by the bullies. One day, I saw 3 of them cornering him in the hallway, taking his lunch, pushing him against the wall. I was 15 and had a sharp tongue. I got in the middle of it, called them every name in the book, threatened to tell the principal. They left laughing, but they never bothered Paul again. We became friends after that. He was smart, funny, kind. He helped me with math. I helped him not get beaten up so much. We spent all of high school together. He had a crush on me. I knew it. Everyone knew it except me, who pretended not to see. Senior year at the prom. He asked me to come out to the school garden. He was nervous, stammering, sweating. He started to say something, but before he could finish, Richard showed up. Richard, the popular one, the handsome one, the guy with the cool car. Carmen, come on, I'll give you a ride. I looked at Paul and said, Sorry, Polly. We'll talk later. There was no later. I started dating Richard. Paul went to med school in another state. We lost touch. 40 years. 40 years without seeing that face, and now he was here in front of me looking at me with a mixture of shock and concern. Carmen, talk to me. Did you take something? Eat something? I tried to answer. The words came out jumbled, broken, coffee. Richard, coffee. Paul understood. I saw it in his eyes. He got it instantly. That bastard, he muttered, and then yelling, Somebody call 911 now. Tell them it's acute poisoning. He laid me on the ground on my side. Recovery position, I think it's called. He monitored my breathing, kept me from passing out completely. Carmen, stay with me. Look at me. I tried. I tried with all the strength I had left, but the world was going dark. He wanted to kill me. I know, Carmen. I get it. But you're not going to die. Not while I'm here. Sirens, the ambulance arriving, paramedics' voices. Paul giving instructions with the authority of someone who's done this for decades. Suspected poisoning with an amnesic sedative, probably a benzoazepine or scopolamine. Urgent gastric lavage. Activated charcoal. Full toxicology panel. Are you family, sir? Paul looked at me, at the woman he had loved 40 years ago and had never forgotten. I'm a friend for 40 years. He held my hand as they put me on the stretcher. He didn't let go for a second. The last thing I saw before I blacked out was his face, the boy I had saved 40 years ago, now saving me back. Paul saved me twice at that rest stop, once as a doctor and once as the friend I never should have let go. I opened my eyes to a white ceiling, the smell of disinfectant, the beeping of machines, fluorescent lights, a hospital. I was alive. For a moment, I didn't remember anything, not the coffee, not the bus station, not Richard's whisper in my ear. For a moment, I just existed without a past, without context, without pain, and then it all came flooding back. Like a wave crashing on the shore, the memories hit me with full force. The bitter coffee, the wobbly legs. In an hour, you won't even remember your own name. I remembered Everything. I turned my head to the side and saw Paul. He was sitting in a chair next to my bed with dark circles under his eyes and a day's worth of stubble. He looked like he hadn't slept all night. Carmen. He leaned forward, relieved. You're awake. Thank God you're awake. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry. Paul got a cup of water and helped me drink. The water went down slowly, cool, healing. What time is it? I asked, my voice still. It's 9 a.m. on Sunday. You've been asleep for almost 20 hours. 20 hours? A whole day of my life erased by the drug my husband had put in my coffee. Paul, what happened to me? He took a deep breath, held my hand with both of his. Carmen, I have to tell you something, and it's not going to be easy to hear. I already know. Richard tried to kill me. Not exactly kill. Worse. What could be worse than killing? Paul explained. The drug Richard had used was a compound designed to cause permanent amnesia. It didn't kill the body, it killed the mind. If I had arrived at the hospital a few hours later, I would have woken up with no memory of anything. Not my name, my life, my daughter. I would have been an empty shell, a person without an identity. He wanted to erase you, Carmen, not kill you, erase you. I felt nauseous, not from the drug, from the betrayal. But why? I don't understand why he would do that. I don't know, but we're going to find out. Paul showed me the bus ticket they'd found in my purse. It wasn't to Montauk like Richard had said. It was to Omaha, Nebraska, a nearly 2-day trip. And the name on the ticket wasn't Carmen Prow. It was Maria Sanchez. He wanted you to disappear in the middle of the country without a memory, without an identity. You would have become a Jane Doe, a person with no past, and he would have gotten everything. The boutiques, the apartment, the car, everything I had built over decades of hard work. 33 years, I whispered. 33 years of marriage. And he does this to me. The tears came. I couldn't hold them back. I cried like I hadn't cried since I was a child, deep sobs that shook my whole body. Paul said nothing, just held my hand and let me cry. When the tears finally stopped, I looked at him. What do I do now, Paul? First, we call the police. You have a friend who's a detective, right? You mentioned it when you were semi-conscious, Sonia, Detective Sonia Miller. We were roommates in college. Then call her, tell her everything, and then we plan. Plan what? Paul smiled, a sad but determined smile. Your revenge. I called Sonia from that hospital bed with Paul by my side. Sonia and I had gone to college together over 30 years ago. She'd gone into law enforcement, I'd gone into fashion, but we never lost touch. We had lunch once a month, shared a bottle of wine at holiday parties, and I knew I could count on her for anything, including arresting my husband. Carmen, my God, what happened? You disappear for a whole day, and now you're calling me from a hospital upstate. I told her everything, the coffee, the bus station, the whisper, the bus, Paul finding me at the rest stop. Sonia listened in silence. I knew that silence. It was her silence when she was processing information, building a case in her head. Carmen, I've seen a lot of cowardly men in this job, she said when I finished, but your husband is a special kind of scum. Sonia, I need help, and you're going to get it. I'll take care of him. You just need to stay alive and stay hidden. No one can know you're here. No one can know you remember everything. The only exception will be Amanda. I'll need her for the legal side, and I trust her as much as I trust you. Understood. And Carmen? What? 30 years of friendship, you think I was going to abandon you now? I hung up the phone, feeling for the first time since I'd woken up a flicker of hope. Paul hadn't left my side. He'd canceled the neurology conference he was on his way to when he found me. Paul, you don't have to stay here. I'm better now. I know I don't have to, but I want to. He looked out the window of the room at the blue sky outside. You saved me once, Carmen. In high school, When those guys were about to beat me up, you appeared out of nowhere and stood up to them for me. I remembered. Of course, I remembered. I never forgot that. And I'm not leaving now, not this time. I held his hand and let the silence speak for us. That night, lying in that hospital bed, I made a promise to myself. When all of this was over, I would apologize to Amanda. I would tell her she had been right all along. I would be the mother she deserved. If I survived, Sonia worked fast. In 2 days, she had put together a complete dossier on my husband's secret life, and what she found was worse than I could have imagined. The wine import business had gone bankrupt 2 years ago. Richard had hidden it from me, pretending to go to work every morning when in reality he was spending the day doing God knows what, but that wasn't all. Richard had debts, massive debts, $1 million to a loan shark connected to organized crime. He had invested in some illegal import scheme that went wrong, and now his life was being threatened. And to complete the picture, he had a mistress, Jessica, 32 years old, a personal trainer, platinum blonde, huge nails, tight clothes. Sonia showed me the photos, the two of them at a motel, holding hands at the mall, having dinner at expensive restaurants, a 2-year affair, 2 years of lies. The texts between them are revealing, Sonia said, her voice filled with disgust. She read some of them to me. Jessica asking when Richard was going to leave the old hag. Richard promising that everything would be resolved soon. Jessica demanding gifts, trips, luxuries that Richard paid for with the money I thought was going into his company. Did she know about the debts? She knew, and she stayed with him anyway, thinking that when you disappeared, she'd get everything. Disappeared? What a nice word for what he tried to do to me. Sonia nodded. She had also gotten a confession from the pharmacist who sold Richard the drug. $15,000 for a compound that was supposed to turn me into a walking vegetable. We have the security footage from the terminal, too, she continued. Richard putting the powder in the coffee, carrying you to the bus, leaving without a look back. It's all on tape. I should have been crying, I should have been destroyed, but I had cried so much in the last 48 hours that I had no tears left. I only had anger, a cold, calculated anger that burned in my chest like a hot coal. So now what? I asked. Sonia smiled, a predatory smile. Now we wait. Richard has filed a petition in court to get access to your bank accounts. Says you've disappeared and he needs the money to fund the search. The search? How ironic. He made me disappear, and now he wants money to look for me. Exactly. The hearing is in 5 days, and you're going to show up there alive with your memory and with all this evidence. The look on his face will be priceless. He thought it was the perfect crime, I said. He forgot your best friend is a detective, Sonia finished. We both laughed, a bitter, joyless laugh, but a laugh nonetheless. It was good to have someone on my side. Sonia left that night, promising to be back in 2 days with more information. Paul stayed with me as he had from the beginning. You should get some rest, I told him. You haven't slept properly in 3 days. I'll sleep when you're safe. I looked at him, at the man he had become, kind, dedicated, loyal. Everything Richard had never been. We sat in silence, but it was a good silence. A silence full of unsaid things that would one day be said. The next morning, Sonia called with urgent news. Carmen, your husband called the hospital. My blood ran cold. Does he know I'm here? No. He was calling hospitals along the bus route, looking for a woman in her 50s with no ID. The receptionist almost told him you were admitted. Almost. I got there seconds before. I've put you under police protection. No information about you can be released to anyone. I breathed a sigh of relief, but paranoia had set in. Sonia, what if he finds out? What if he comes here to finish the job? He won't. There are 2 officers at your door 24/7. You're safe, Carmen. I promise. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. There's one more thing, Sonia said, and her tone changed, became more hesitant. What is it? It's about Greg. Greg, my son, 32 years old, worked in his father's company, always asking for money. What about Greg? Carmen, he knew about the mistress for over a year. The world stopped. What? We found texts between him and Richard. Greg knew about the affair with Jessica, and he didn't tell you. And now, after you disappeared, he's agreed to testify on his father's behalf in court. He's going to say your marriage was perfect. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My son, my own son and Amanda? I asked, my voice breaking. Amanda is desperately looking for you. She's been to the precinct 3 times in the last 2 days. She knows something is wrong. Of course she knew. Amanda always knew. I hung up the phone and stared at the ceiling. Paul was by my side, but he said nothing. What could he say? Richard had almost found me by seconds, but luck had changed sides. And my son, my own son, knew everything and hadn't told me. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay staring at the ceiling, processing what Sonia had told me. My son knew. For over a year, Greg had known his father had a mistress, and he chose not to tell me. Why? I tried to remember my 2 children growing up, tried to understand where I'd gone wrong, at what point things had gone so terribly wrong. Greg had always been his father's son. Ever since he was little, he preferred Richard. He wanted to go along on business trips. He was dazzled by the expensive gifts his father brought back. He repeated Richard's phrases as if they were gospel. I thought it was sweet, a boy who admired his father. What could be wrong with that? Everything. Everything was wrong. Richard probably took Greg to meetings that were actually trysts with his mistress. He gave him money to keep quiet, not to ask questions, to be an accomplice. And Greg accepted. Accepted because it was easier, because the money was good, because he had never learned the difference between right and wrong. The blame was mine, too. I was too busy building my business, working too hard to support the family, while Richard pretended to have a company. I outsourced the raising of my son to the wrong man. But Amanda was different. Amanda was always different. Since she was little, she followed me everywhere. When I opened my first shop, a tiny clothing stall at a neighborhood flea market, Amanda was 8 and insisted on coming along. She'd sit on a stool behind the counter, doing her homework while I served customers, observing everything with those big, curious eyes. "Mom, why was that lady crying?" she asked once after a customer left, wiping away tears. "Because her husband did something very mean, honey, and she's sad." "What did he do?" "Grown-up stuff. You'll understand when you're older." "I don't want to understand. I want to help her." At 12, Amanda started helping me with inventory. She'd check the pieces, organize by size, note what was missing. She had a natural talent for numbers and an impressive memory. "Mom, we're missing 3 blue tops in size medium, and the supplier sent 2 fewer skirts than we ordered." "How do you know that, honey?" I counted. By 15, she was already waiting on customers. The women loved her. She had a gentle way of listening, of making people feel special. And she heard the stories of unhappy marriages, of betrayals, of women who had given everything for their families and received ingratitude in return. "Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a family law attorney." "Why, sweetie?" "Because I want to help these women. I want to get justice for them." I hugged my daughter that day, so proud. I didn't know that one day I would be one of those women. At 16, Amanda came to tell me she'd seen her father with another woman, and I didn't believe her. I called her a liar, told her she was making it up because she didn't like her father. Amanda never brought it up again, but her gaze changed. She distanced herself from Richard, started avoiding him, speaking only when necessary, and I, blind and cowardly, pretended not to notice. At 18, she went to college to study law. At 23, she passed the bar exam, on her second try, after a first failure that devastated her. I remember her phone call crying, saying she was a failure. Amanda, listen to me. You get up, you dust yourself off, and you try again. That's what we do. That's what I've always done. She got up, she dusted herself off, she tried again, and she passed. At 30, Amanda was a respected lawyer specializing in domestic violence cases and contentious divorces. She defended women like the customers in my stores, women who had been betrayed, abandoned, humiliated, and she was good at it. We talked every day, had lunch every week. She was my best friend, my confidant, the only person who truly knew me. When I was sad, she could tell before I even opened my mouth. When I was happy, she celebrated with me. "Mom, you're my hero," she told me once during a Sunday lunch. "You built all this from scratch, started selling clothes at a flea market, and now you have 3 boutiques. I want to be just like you when I grow up. You're already grown up, honey, and you're much better than me." Impossible. Lying in that hospital bed, thinking about my 2 children, I finally understood the difference between them. Greg had chosen money. Amanda had chosen me, and now, while I was here, hidden, hurt, betrayed, Greg was preparing to testify for his father, and Amanda was desperately looking for me. I had to talk to her. I had to tell her the truth. Sonia authorized it, said Amanda was trustworthy, that she could help with the plan, and late that afternoon, my phone rang with her name on the screen. "Honey," I answered, my voice trembling. "Mom, Mom." Amanda was crying, sobbing. I had never heard her cry like that. Sonia told me, "Mom, thank God. I thought I'd lost you. I'm here, honey. I'm alive. I knew something was wrong. I knew it. I felt it. Mom, when you didn't answer the phone, when you didn't text to say you'd arrived, I felt something was terribly wrong. I should have listened to you, honey. 14 years ago when you saw him at the mall." Silence. Amanda cried harder. "You remember that?" "I never forgot, Amanda. I just didn't want to believe it, and I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for not listening, for calling you a liar, for choosing him over you. Mom, forgive me. Forgive me for not insisting more. Forgive you?" "You forgive me, honey. You were right all along, and I was an idiot." "You weren't an idiot. You trusted your husband. There's nothing wrong with that. There was everything wrong with it, honey, and I almost paid for it with my life." Amanda wanted to come to the hospital right then, get in her car, and drive to New Haven, hug me, protect me. "Not yet, honey. Sonia has a plan. A hearing in 5 days. I need to show up there alive with all the evidence." "What hearing?" I explained. "Richard asking for access to my accounts, claiming I had disappeared, playing the part of the worried husband." "I'll be there," Amanda said, her voice shifting from tearful to determined. "I'll be your lawyer at that hearing, honey." "You don't have to, Mom." Her voice cut mine off, firm, no room for discussion. "You taught me to be strong. You taught me to fight. You told me to get up, dust myself off, and try again. Now it's my turn to do the same for you." "Don't argue with me," I cried. But this time they were different tears. Tears of gratitude, of pride, of love. "What did I do to deserve a daughter like you? You raised me. That's what you did." Sonia arrived at the hospital 2 days before the hearing. She brought everything: the evidence, the videos, the message screenshots, the pharmacist's confession, a thick folder of documents that proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that my husband had tried to destroy me. "The plan is simple," she explained, spreading the papers on the small table in the room. "Richard filed for access to your accounts, said you disappeared, and he needs the money to fund the search." How ironic. He made me disappear, and now he wants money to look for me. Exactly. The hearing is on Thursday at 2 p.m. at the courthouse in Manhattan. You're going to show up there alive, lucid, memory intact, And with all this evidence, the look on his face will be priceless, I said. It'll be more than priceless. It'll be historic. Paul was sitting on the other side of the room, listening in silence. He hadn't left my side for a single moment during those days. He had become my anchor, my point of balance, my reason to believe there were still good men in the world. Sonia hesitated, looked at Paul, then at me. Carmen, there's something else about Greg. My stomach sank. What about him? She showed me screenshots of conversations between Richard and Greg, messages exchanged over the past months, the past years. My son knew about the mistress for over a year. He knew. But that's not all. When you disappeared, Richard called Greg. Sonia said he asked him to testify for him in court to say your marriage was perfect, that you never showed signs of wanting to leave. And what did Greg say? Sonia showed me the message. I'm with you, Dad. I'll say the marriage was perfect. I read it, reread it. I couldn't process it. There's more, Sonia said. We bugged Richard's phone. There's an audio recording of Greg. She pressed play. My son's voice filled the room. Dad, did Mom suspect anything? And Richard's voice responding, Don't worry, she didn't suspect a thing. My son's voice, cold, calculating, asking if I had found out anything before being poisoned, as if it were a logistical issue, as if I were a problem to be solved. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. It wasn't the drug, it wasn't the weakness, it was the betrayal of my own flesh and blood. When I came back to the room, Paul hugged me. Sonia waited in silence. I can't do it, I said, my voice broken. I can't face both of them, my husband and my son. How am I going to do this, Carmen? Sonia started. I just want to leave, disappear, start over somewhere else, far from all of this. Paul and Sonia looked at each other, not knowing what to say. And then my phone rang. Amanda, I answered, my voice still from crying. Amanda, Mom, what's wrong? You sound different. I can hear it in your voice. I told her about Greg, about the messages, the audio recording, silence on the other end of the line, and then my daughter's voice came back different. It was no longer the voice of a worried daughter. It was the voice of a warrior. Mom, listen to me. Honey, I can't. You can. The strength in her voice made me pause. I spent 14 years knowing Dad was no good. 14 years being called a liar. Dramatic. 14 years watching you defend him while I kept my mouth shut. I said nothing. What could I say? And you know why I never gave up on you? Because you never gave up on me when I failed the bar exam the first time. Remember what you told me? Get up, dust yourself off, and try again. Exactly. And I got up, and I tried, and I passed because of you. Silence. So, now it's my turn to tell you. Get up, Mom. Dust yourself off and go to that courthouse and destroy those two. I started to cry again, but they were different tears. You built an empire selling clothes at a flea market. You raised 2 kids practically on your own while Dad pretended to work. You survived a poisoning that should have erased you from existence. You think you can't face a coward and a spoiled brat? I laughed through my tears. A wet laugh, but a laugh nonetheless. And another thing, Mom. If you don't go, I will. I'll go there alone and destroy them both with my own 2 hands. But I'd rather you be there to see it because you deserve to see the look on their faces when they realize they've lost. I looked at Paul and Sonia, who were watching in silence. You're just like me. You know that, I said to Amanda. I know. That's why you're going to get out of that bed and go with me. I took a deep breath, wiped my tears, hardened my voice. Okay, honey. I'll go. On the other end of the line, I could almost hear my daughter's smile. That's my mom. 5 days. 5 days to face the man who tried to kill me and the son who betrayed me. But I wasn't alone anymore. I had Paul, I had Sonia, and I had Amanda, and that was all I needed. The 5 days before the hearing were the longest of my life. I was slowly recovering. The drug had left my system, but the emotional effects were still there. I'd wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, dreaming of Richard whispering in my ear. Sometimes I'd have flashbacks during the day, the bitter taste of the coffee, the weak legs, the feeling of losing control of my own body. Paul never left my side. He slept in an armchair in the room, woke up before I did, brought coffee from the hospital cafeteria, and always took the first sip to show me it was safe. "You don't have to do that," I said the third time he did it. "I know, but I want you to feel safe." We talked for hours about the past, the present, the future. I learned things about Paul I'd never imagined. He'd been married for 22 years to a woman named Helena, an oncologist who died of cancer 3 years ago. "Life is ironic," he said. "She spent her entire career treating cancer in others, and she died of cancer. You loved her very much. She was my partner,